everyone, welcome back to Media Makers Hub. My name is Erica, and today we are going to start talking about JVC cameras. So the first one we're going to take a look at today is this big guy right here. So this is the JVC GY-HC500U. Long title, lots of numbers. Anyways, so this is a 4K camera. It has a lot of really cool features, lots of buttons. So we're gonna go through and kind of do a real simple guide on how to use this so we can give you some tips and tricks just so you can get started on your journey with videography. So let's hop into the video and we'll get a closer look at this camera. So first we are gonna start with an overview of the camera. So this JVC GY-HC500U is a 4K camcorder. It's got a 1-inch sensor, excellent image quality. It's essentially built for professional use. It also has live streaming features and some built-in wireless capabilities, which make these guys really cool. You can actually set up a network on here, which we can talk about later. You can set up a network on here and live stream straight from this camera to like a Facebook account or something else. So I'm just gonna kind of take a tour on this side. We have got all of our buttons, all of our things like that. Back here is where all those important little slots, and there are tons of things that you can plug into here. So we come around, little straps so you can hold it. This is a mount to put a microphone on as well as here. And then we've got our lens, and then these are all of our little dials that we can fine tune. So we're gonna start in the back here. So this is where we've got all those ports. So I'm gonna quickly move this out of the way. So this top door right here, that is your memory card or SD card holder. Has the capability to hold 2 slots in there, and you can select which one you want to record to with this button here. We've got a battery release. Like most of the cameras that we've talked about, they have some way to get the battery out of there. If we open up this little door here, there's a bunch of little doors with a bunch of things that you can plug into there. This one is one that you might use more. We've got aux and HDMI. Down here at the bottom, we've got ones for remotes and DC ports. We've got Ethernet and host ports. This one is an SDI cable port. If we give her a quick turn, we've got some more right here. We've got a headphone jack, which that one, I believe, I'm not sure which size that is, but you can plug that right into there and you can hear the audio coming straight through. And then we've got some more cabling spots. So lots of compatibility with this guy and lots of options. You can plug external monitors into here. You can plug Ethernet cables, HDMI cables, little boxes that help you live stream on different networks, things like that. So it has a lot of customizability in terms of what you'd like to use. While we are over here, on our little handle that's down here, we've got exposure/focus button. This is a zoom, so which way you're going. And then back here we have one of our many record buttons. So that's there for like if you're holding it, you would like put your hand in and use your thumb. So there's that. So just like any other camera that you would use, you've got to use a memory card. So I've got one in my hand. We're gonna pop open this slot, and like everything else, it's really only got one way for these guys to go in. And it's that same principle of you slide it in till it clicks, and that's in there. And like I said, you have the capacity to put 2 in here. Some people will put 2 in just in case they run out of space on one. And then you would use that slot select to pick it. So we pop that guy down. So the fun thing about these is they have the capability to be like plugged straight into a wall. They've got those cords, kind of looks like a computer cord, but it plugs in and then you don't have to rely on batteries. But they've got batteries. They're these really big, beefy ones. So there are teeth looking things at the bottom there. Teeth looking things down there. Line those guys up and then push down. If you do it right, if you can get it, it clicks. So now you've got a battery in there. And then much like any of the other cameras we've been working with, battery release button, if I can click it, we'll pop it right off. All right, buttons. There's a lot of buttons on this guy. Some of the more important ones, you've got your switch over here, which is your on and off switch. We've got one that I like to use is the zebra one. It essentially adds these little lines to your LCD screen so you can kind of see some like the brightness and things like that. The fun thing about these guys is they are very customizable. So some of these buttons, like, you can change what they go to depending on what you want. Down here is going to be your white balance panel. I have it full auto off. That means that it's not auto adjusting your white balance and you have to set it. Basically, that means that you would hold something white in front of the camera, usually a piece of paper or a card, and you would press this button that's got a flower on it, and it would adjust the white balance, and then you'd have the correct white balance. We've got things like shutter buttons, gain. Your important one to note is the menu button right here, and then this is how you go about the menu. You go up or down type thing. And then we've got, over here we've got our focus ones and our like ND filters. There's a bunch of them that say like this user one. That's a lot of those ones again that you can kind of customize for your own preference. Lots of buttons. You don't always need all of the buttons. If you know what you need to do and you can get it done, know the buttons you need to know, like a white balance, what focus you're going to be in, and the menu button. That's important. And the fun thing I'll show you when we put a battery in is when you turn our camera on, which we'll pop a battery in real quick. When we turn it on, so it's got this little blue button in the middle, kind of have to push that in and then push up. We've got green on this little button, this little light up here, and then we've got green bars. That's good. That means you've got battery. So I'm going to switch up shots real quick, and we're going to take a look at the LCD screen. Okay, so up near the top here, like I was talking about, this is your LCD screen. So this one is not a touchscreen, unfortunately, so we have to use the terrible buttons to do it. But this is how you'd navigate the menu, or, you know, you'd use the, you can see all your information like your SD card, battery. We've got the f-stop and audio and time and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about the menu real quick. So on the side of the camera, I'm going to click our menu button, and here we are. So lots of things. We've got our camera function, which this will show you all of that good stuff. A lot of this is very technical. Sometimes you don't need to really know a whole lot of this. And then we've got camera process. Stuff that you're gonna want to look at is video and audio set, depending on if you've got like HDMI or SDI running out, or like what your mic inputs and what you want them to be at. So that, and then network is where you'd go into live streaming stuff. So you'd have to go through the connection setup and all this fun stuff to connect it to the internet, and then you go into live streaming and you'd be able to connect it straight to a Facebook or YouTube server and stream. And then your system settings, which are your classic camera things. So we know that I've got an SD card in here. One thing that you need to do when you put an SD card in here is go into System, into Media, Format Media, and then it's going to ask you which slot. And then, so you see how it says 271 right now? We're gonna go ahead and format this. We're gonna go ahead and go back and get out of our menu real quick. Our 271 turned into 321. Basically, when you format the media, it just kind of breaks up and ensures that you have optimal space on that SD card or memory card. So that's a very important thing to do anytime you set up one of these. So that's the menu. We've got a bunch of stuff on here, a lot of things to look at. But this is where you would pay attention to the audio levels, pay attention to how it looks and all that stuff. Some people will attach external monitors to these, like a little tiny screen that's a little bit bigger than this that you can see from. Some people do that, some people don't. That's a preference thing. While we're up here, we've got some more settings in here. So hidden inside of right behind our LCD screen, essentially, this is we've got status is a button that you're going to use if you're live streaming. Helps you look at IP addresses, whether you're connected to the Wi-Fi, all that fun stuff. That's a good one to know. Brightness and like audio things. This is a lot of audio stuff. So what the inputs are coming through, what the monitor is coming through, the channels and all that stuff. So that's kind of what that is for there. One thing you can also do is, if you really hate the thing back here to use the menu, we do also have one down here. I don't like either of them, to be honest, but that's because every time sometimes I'll try to click something and then it'll go back because I've clicked it too far. So that's just a me thing. But, so all that fun stuff. Up top, you'll see that this is kind of like a little metal piece. You can slide certain mounts in there to mount a monitor, to mount a wireless mic. Basically anything that has that like square mount, you can pop that in there. We've got another zoom control, and this is another record button. This one has one, if you switch it to hold, that means button won't do anything, it won't press. It's really good for if you're like physically holding the camera, so then you don't accidentally turn it off. Not really a problem here. This is another type of mount. It's a screw mount. So like, some people will attach, if they have to, they'll attach something like a bird dog, which is like an internet thingy to help with like broadcasting and live streaming. So some people will have mounts for like things like that, or any other kind of mount can go into there. And then yeah, viewfinder. When you've got the LCD screen, not many people use these. So mine always just ends up like out of the way. And then we've got our audio piece back here. So this is a mount for a microphone. So this one screws. You can slide a microphone in and you're good there. We've got 2 audio ports back here. So these are XLR cables, those 3 prong cables. You've got a input 1 and input 2. So you can have 2 microphones on here. Like I have 2 on the camera I'm currently recording, so that I have both like my mic and then just extra audio in case something happens. But you can have multiple mic inputs and all that good stuff. So the next thing we're going to talk about are our 3 rings up here on the camera. So we've got our smaller one, we've got our medium-sized one, and then our big one up here near the lens. This smaller one is our aperture. Now, if you don't know what aperture is, I've got a video of talking about the exposure triangle, which talks about aperture. But B, essentially, helps with the light and then like depth of field, essentially. So you'll notice when you move this on your LCD screen, you'll see the shot get brighter or darker depending on which way you turn it. So that's aperture. Like I said, there is a video on that on my channel. This middle one right here, this is your zoom. So depending on which way you turn it, it's going to zoom in and out. which is good. But one thing to remember about zooms is that zoom is nice, but also you also can just move the whole camera forward or backwards, but that's personal preference. And then this last big guy up here is your focus ring. So you will use this to focus your frame, unfocus it, whatever you want to do, but that'll only work if you have this in manual. If you have it in auto, it does it all for you. You don't have to do anything. Manual is really good when you are not moving your camera. If you're doing like an interview or something and somebody's just sitting in front of the camera and they're not going to move from that shot, it's good to use manual because you can just set it and adjust it as needed. Auto is nice when you're kind of doing something like what I do and kind of constantly move things around or bring things into the frame to focus on. So that's kind of what auto is nice for. Then you don't have to manually go to the ring and adjust it. But then also sometimes you just have to do it anyways. So it's a good thing to learn how to use both on here. Okay, so you've noticed that this is a really big camera. So these are either carried kind of like on your shoulder, but not as often as they are just put on tripods. But these ones work just like any other one. They need a plate. So this is actually, I haven't shown you yet, but this is kind of an example of a tripod plate. It's got screws on it. It screws in and then it slides into your tripod. And that's really important for getting smooth shots and like keeping things consistent. Unless you're me and you just kick the camera because you're too close to it, which happens way more often than I'd like to admit. But tripods are nice, and this guy can get a little heavy if you're carrying it for a while, just because it is a bigger camera. Recording your footage. So I'm gonna use this top record button up here, and all you're gonna do is give it one big click, and it'll start recording. You'll know because we've got our light up here that is red, which is really nice because you can see it when you're in front of the camera, so that you like know it's recording. And another thing that I like is on our side here, it also is red down on our bottom light. This one is status, so it'll either be green or red depending on if you're filming. And then the top one is network. That really comes into play when you are live streaming and connecting to network. So it'll either be red, like an orange, or green, depending on what you're doing. So, yeah. And then all you gotta do is click it again, and once that red light goes away, you're done recording. Unlike some of the other videos that we've made, you've really not seen one of these cameras like fully in action. We've kind of just shown you how to turn it on, how to press record, all that fun stuff. But since this is such a different camera than what we've seen before, especially when we look back at like the DSLR video and the camcorder video, so I wanted to kind of show it in like its real context. So this is a JVC, the same one that we talked about, that is kind of set up to record and to film on. So one thing you'll notice is hanging some headphones off of here. Those get plugged into that port on the side, and you can listen to the audio as it's being recorded or check it before you hit record. It's a really good tool to have, just to know that you're recording the right stuff. One thing that's on the other side of this camera is this little cord here. This plugs into a microphone. So this is for one of the wireless microphones we have. Basically the transmitter gets plugged into here, and then it usually just gets mounted onto our camera in that mount that I was talking about earlier. And then the person talking, or the people talking, they would have the physical mic pack with the mic on it, and then they would talk and they would transmit to here, and it would do the thing. That's one way to do it. There are like ways to fully just like hardwire it to your camera, which is how I do it, because it's easier and you don't have to worry about wireless not working. But this is kind of how it would look when you actually went to start filming with it. This is kind of what it looks when I film, except I'm not this tall. It's a little tall for me. But one thing that I didn't really show when we went through the other one is this. So I talked about it, but This camera is not running off of a battery whatsoever. It's running off of this. Looks like a computer charger. It essentially plugs into the back of the camera and then it plugs into an outlet, and the camera works without a battery. That's really nice when you're filming something long, or especially if you're live streaming. It gives you kind of that peace of mind that you're not going to have to run and quickly change batteries or stop something to change a battery. Just makes it a lot easier to film and all that stuff. So, and with that, that's the end of this video. So, we learned kind of very simple stuff about this high quality, high performance JVC. So if you ever do get access to these, they're awesome cameras to work with. They're really cool. So, but I can't lie that they look intimidating. They're not, to a certain extent, but you all are going to be tired of hearing this. But the best thing that you can do if you're really confused is to Google it. It's what I do most of the time if I don't know how to do something. Because there are tons of resources out there, including my content, but there's tons of other content to learn more about these things. So if I don't answer a question and you have other questions, leave them down in the comments. I can try my best to answer, but also use the resources given to you, like the internet. But this has been the intro video to JVC cameras. So I hope you all had a good day, good night, whatever you're watching. This has been Media Makers Hub, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.